In the theatre of international conflict, words are often weapons, and few words are as carefully staged as the claim of being a peacemaker. In recent months, a curious drama has played out. On one side, former President Donald Trump has repeatedly asserted that his administration is engaged in direct talks with the Islamic Republic of Iran. He has described these conversations as productive, even friendly, painting a picture of back-channel diplomacy aimed at de-escalation. On the other side, Iranian officials have issued firm, unequivocal denials. From the Foreign Ministry to the Supreme National Security Council, Tehran has stated that there are no direct talks, no indirect talks, no negotiations of any kind between Iran and the United States. Two competing realities, presented with equal certainty. This contradiction is not merely a diplomatic spat. It is a window into a recurring pattern in American foreign policy. The practice of claiming the mantle of peace while continuing the mechanics of war. To understand what is happening now, one must look back at how the United States has often framed its military actions. Again and again, American leaders have stood before the world and spoken of their desire for peace, even as bombs fell and sanctions tightened. During the Iraq War, the phrase "coalition of the willing" was deployed alongside persistent assertions that every avenue for peace had been exhausted. In the years since, the gap between declared intent and on-the-ground reality has only grown wider. In the current instance, the timeline of claims is revealing. Donald Trump has made his assertions in interviews, on social media, and in public appearances. He has suggested that his personal relationships with Iranian leaders, or his reputation as a deal-maker, have opened channels that were previously closed. The implication is clear, that he is the one working tirelessly behind the scenes to prevent a wider conflict. But each time such a claim is made, Iranian authorities respond with what they call a categorical denial. They point to the absence of any diplomatic engagement, the continuation of American military presence in the region, and the sustained pressure of economic sanctions as evidence that no genuine peace initiative exists. What emerges from this back and forth is a kind of political theatre. One side presents itself as the voice of reason, the reluctant warrior who nevertheless extends a hand. The other side insists there is no hand to take. In the absence of independent verification, the public is left to choose which version to believe. Regardless of whether any talks are actually happening, what purpose does the claim serve? Historically, the claim of pursuing diplomacy has often been used to achieve three things. First, it provides political cover for military action. If a leader can say they tried everything, including direct negotiation, then any subsequent use of force can be framed as a last resort. Second, it creates confusion among allies and adversaries alike, making it harder to coordinate a unified response. Third, it shapes domestic public opinion, casting a leader as a peacemaker, even as the machinery of war continues to operate. In this light, the contradiction between Trump's statements and Iran's denials becomes less a factual dispute and more a feature of the strategy itself. Iran's denials are themselves significant. By refusing to acknowledge any contact, Tehran undermines the credibility of the American narrative. It also signals to its own domestic audience that it is not capitulating to pressure, and it forces observers to scrutinize the evidence. If there truly were secret talks, some trace would likely exist. Diplomatic notes, leaked communications, intermediaries who could confirm them. Yet none has emerged. The absence of evidence, in this case, weighs against the American claim. This pattern is not new. In the years leading up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq, American officials spoke of diplomatic efforts at the United Nations while simultaneously moving troops into position. After the invasion, claims of weapons of mass destruction were eventually disproven, but the narrative of having pursued all peaceful options had already served its purpose. Similarly, during the so-called maximum pressure campaign against Iran, the United States frequently asserted it was open to unconditional negotiations, even as it imposed crippling sanctions and carried out military actions that Iranian officials described as acts of war. What makes the current moment distinct is the blatant public contradiction. One side says talks are happening, the other side says they are not. There is no neutral arbiter to resolve the dispute. In that vacuum, each side's statements become tools of information warfare. The American claim projects an image of a leader striving for peace. The Iranian denial projects an image of a nation resisting deception. Both are aimed at audiences far beyond the negotiating table. The story is not about who is telling the truth in a literal sense. It is about how the claim of peacemaking functions in the context of ongoing conflict. When a leader says they are talking to the enemy, and the enemy says they are not, the public is forced to navigate a fog of competing narratives. And in that fog, actions that would otherwise be unmistakable, airstrikes, naval deployments, economic warfare, become blurred. They can be reinterpreted as part of a diplomatic dance rather than as escalations. The underlying reality, however, is often more stark. While the claims and denials circulate, the war continues. People continue to die. Sanctions continue to restrict food and medicine. Military assets continue to move into position. The gap between the rhetoric of peace and the reality of war is where this documentary finds its subject. It is not a story about a single administration or a single country. It is a story about how power uses language to create permission for itself, and how those on the receiving end must constantly push back, not only against weapons, but against the very words that are used to justify them. In the end, whether Donald Trump actually spoke with Iranian officials may be less important than the fact that he claimed to. The claim itself becomes a political act, one that resonates through the region and around the world. And Iran's refusal to validate that claim is an equally political act. Together, they form a kind of choreography, one that has been performed before, with different leaders, different conflicts, but the same essential structure. The peacemaker's pose, adopted while the war machine grinds on, and the quiet, persistent denial from those who know that the only true peace is one that does not need to be announced.